which is a cut that gets made into the seat of the valve. And once that happens, that valve is never going to close off fully. So one issue that you may run into with that is you may not realize that it's not closing off due to the damage to the valve. You may think it's an actuator issue. You may throw another actuator on there and have the same problem. If you do, if that first actuator was working fine as far as stroking the valve properly, but you just weren't getting a tight enough close off, likely scenario is that you damage the seat of the valve. And in that, once that happens, then you need to get a new valve in there. It's important to select the correct three-way globe valve because you're going to have different internal components if you're using it for a mixing application versus a diverting application. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get further into the presentation. Globe valves are rated for steam up to 100 psi inlet, depending on the valve and actuator combination. Can't exceed the maximum differential pressures, otherwise you're going to have problems with the valve. Close off and leakage ratings. One of the benefits in using a CCV over a globe valve is that the close off rating is determined more by the ball of the valve, whereas with a globe valve, that close off rating is determined both by the valve itself, but also by the actuator, how much torque that actuator can press down on the stem of the valve. Whereas with the CCV, the ball style valve, it's just a matter of the actuator needing to be able to rotate that ball the 95 degrees or 90 degrees. So the CCV, and available in two-way and three-way configurations. We have it available up to 6-inch on the two-way sizes. We do have the stainless steel and chrome plated brass. See here, screwed valves available 1/2 through 3-inch. Flange are available 2.5 to 6. Those flange valves are the ones I'm talking about that are only available as two-way valves. I know a lot of salespeople at Belimo have given feedback that we would like to see three-way versions of the flange CCVs. It just hasn't happened yet. The CCVs can be used in most of the same applications as the globe valves. The one exception being the regular CCVs are not suitable for steam. Hot and chilled water, up to 60% glycol mix. And again, 5-year warranty on those. Now this is showing a comparison between our old style CCVs and our new style. Just in case you're working on some in your facility, so you can tell the difference. See the old version here? The flange on top of the valve is pretty much square. Here on the new version, you have indentations. You can see on the new, it's a little bit longer than the old. The other thing, the other thing to point out here has country of manufacture. We get our CCV valve bodies from Italy. Then we assemble them here in the U.S. with the actuators that are made here in the U.S. So just in case any of you are wondering or run into it as far as the made in America kind of stuff, our products do fit into that scenario based on the fact that we're making the actuators here and we're completing the whole assembly here. It's just this one component that comes from Italy. One of the nicest features that they have on these valves now is they stamp the date code into the top of the flange. It's a little different than we're used to here. It's the European style of date coding. So the year comes first. So then the month and then the date. So this is May 9th of 2011. Maybe June 9th, 5 or 6 there. We also have new tags, and I'll even say new gen down at the bottom here. It's a new generation style. So it has this type of flange. You should see this type of tag in it.
They be repacked.
They cannot be repacked. No. So with that comment, I'll say that's one downside of the CCV versus a globe valve. Although I'll also tell you that before Belimo, and I've been here about 10 years, I worked at Siemens. And I know when I was there, at least for the smaller valves, they were getting rid of their packed rebuild kits for their globe valves and just telling you to buy a new one. So it started becoming cost prohibitive to offer the rebuild kits. It was cheaper to just offer a new valve. The new valve was less money than the rebuild kit. Now I know out in the field sometimes that doesn't work that way, but that was the manufacturer's thought. So this is the tag that'll be around the net of the valve itself. This tag here will be on the side of the actuator, or possibly on some of the valves the side of the leakage. This is a very important tag if you have any kind of issues with your product. If you're having a failure, this number here in the lower left corner, 8-digit number, that's the Belimo sales order number. If you call in to Jackson, if you can give them that number, they can call into the factory and much more easily get the replacement process underway. Again, the date code here has year first, so that one is April of 06. We show the part number of the full assembly here, so the B322, that's the valve body. The LF24-3, that's the actuator. Show your CV here. The 600 PSI is the rating of the valve, the burst rating of the valve. We have a new stem design as well. The old stem had a very small notch here. There's a deeper notch on the new stem. Just holds the actuator in place a little bit better. And you'll see here it says removable pin. You would want to remove that if you're getting a new actuator and putting it on an old valve body. Because otherwise it's not going to go down all the way because of that pin. Application considerations, as I said, is hot and chilled water with 60% glycol, but not rated for steam. Also not rated for air or oil. The high temp CCVs. Two-way configuration. The reason for that is we designed these primarily for steam applications. Available 1/2 through 1 inch. Connections, only female MPT. As I mentioned earlier, high temperature hot water up to 266 degrees, low pressure steam up to 15 PSI. And these are the only valves that we have in our line that are suitable for potable water.
Well, what was the temperature for the CCV?
The CCV is 212.
I think it's 212.
212 is the rating for the CCV. Yeah. Although, they upped that to 250 now?
Let's have a look.
We're supposed to be upping it to 250. Brian, take a look at the guide. Yeah, so the application considerations with regards to the high temp CCV are going to be your temperatures that we talked about, but also the differential pressure of 60 PSI for the hot water, and we already talked about 15 PSI.
Which still does 212.
Still 212, okay.
Well, I guess it depends. The flanges are 248.